Underneath the beautiful visage of past Hollywood celebrities, you might have failed to notice that there are quite a couple of artificial fillers and silicones that make up their face.
The lost X-rays of Marilyn Monroe.
So you can see her teeth here. And right here these are the nostrils.
For a trend that has become more of a habit for these people who attained fame, it seems like none was left out. From Marilyn Monroe to Lucille Ball, every one of them seems to have had one or more surgeries in their lifetime. How did they go about these transformations? Join us as we take a good peek at how the pre-plastic surgeries of past celebrities turned out. Marilyn Monroe. When talking about the most popular celebrities of old Hollywood, it's hard not to mention Marilyn Monroe. However, what if we tell you that as pretty as she was back in the day, she altered a few features in her body?
Documents that prove Monroe had plastic surgery.
Apparently, this happened around the early 1950s when she was 24 years old. As a matter of fact, during this period, Monroe was at her very prime. And this was an important time as she was starting to land bigger film roles that would take her to the very peak of Hollywood. One of her most outstanding experiences was when she signed her first major contract with 20th Century Fox in June 1950. This contract later made her become the highest-paid actress of the era. As great as that sounds, her 1951 medical records, which were published in 2013, reveal that she wasn't without self-acclaimed flaws. Apparently, Monroe had concerns over the shape and size of her chin and nose, feeling they were disproportionate to her face. Due to these concerns, she had to visit Dr. Michael Shenfield of Beverly Hills, who scheduled surgery precisely on April 17, 1951. Dr. Shenfield performed a chin implant surgery, inserting cartilage to enhance her jawline and a rhinoplasty job to refine the shape of her nose. Some believe these surgeries are what magnified her natural beauty and sex appeal, the very characteristics that would cement her status as one of the most beautiful actresses in the history of Hollywood. Marlene Dietrich. Just as the industry would have it, by 1959, the legendary actress and singer Marlene Dietrich was on a good roll for over 3 decades of her career. Her voice, her talent, and the allure that came with her were basically all that the industry needed to flourish, and that was what they had. Sadly, at age 57, their prized performer had started to get subtle signs of aging in her face. Then again, one moment, what we had was a Marlene Dietrich with aging signs all over her face, and then the next, we were looking at an entirely different person altogether. At that point, everyone's best bet was she had gone for plastic surgery. From her afterlooks, many people believe it's possible that she had her molars removed to emphasize the hollows of her cheeks. Think about the pain that might have caused. Around that time, the Croydon facelift method was quite popular as well, and Marlene was a fan of the procedure. As if to say she was totally willing to trade pain for beauty, Marlene did this plastic surgery as well. The procedure worked in pulling the skin up around her face. It's not particularly clear who did the surgery, but many are saying it was done by Dr. Max Thorek. Was all the pain worth it? Only Marlene gets to say. Katharine Hepburn. By age 48 in 1956, Katharine Hepburn had achieved immense success and critical acclaim on stage and screen. However, with the intense pressures of Hollywood, even this exceptionally strong-willed actress had some physical changes she wished to address privately. She didn't really have any specific issue she wanted to work on. She just found her facial structure a little bit lacking. As a result, during the fall, Hepburn had to visit the respected surgeon, Dr. Cheryl Aston, in Manhattan. Upon examination, Cheryl noted fine lines that were developing around Hepburn's eyes and mouth and her drooping upper eyelids. Being that Katharine was looking for a facial structural makeover, she was willing to go through with whatever suggestions Dr. Cheryl had for her. In November 1956, Cheryl had settled for a neck lift and facelift, which she was supposed to do under local anesthesia. Just as it is with plastic surgeries, Katharine required several weeks of healing time before she could step out in public again. When her bruises had disappeared, You can say she was nothing short of spectacular. When the anxiety that came with altering the body had passed, Catherine returned to filming roles through 1957.
Oh, wait until I become a famous author and make my fortune.
During that period, she was certainly not about letting her age catch up with her career. So she went on to feature in several other movies. Rita Hayworth. Next on the list is our very own American actress and dancer, Rita Hayworth. For someone who really thrived in the golden age of Hollywood and signed with Harry Cohn and Columbia Pictures in 1937, you can say Rita was doing quite well for herself. However, she felt insecure about a visible part of her body, her hairline. At the time, 25-year-old Rita believed that her high hairline was holding her back from reaching her full potential. Due to this frustration, she had to consult the then-famous Beverly Hills plastic surgeon, Dr. John Orlando, that same year on how to reduce her hairline. As a matter of fact, the operation was quite tricky. It involved a forehead lift, which would require making incisions along the hairline and removing strips of scalp tissue to lower the location of the hairline literally. That said, there were chances that the operation could lead to scarring and nerve damage. Regardless, that didn't sway Rita from going through with it. She underwent surgery under local anesthesia in January 1938. But then she had to take several weeks to recover from the procedure. By the time she had recovered from the bruises and swelling, Rita Hayworth later went on to make her dramatic appearance. Cohn and the others were the ones that were particularly pleased with her new appearance. With her hairline several centimeters lower and looking more feminine, within months, Hayworth landed her career-making role in the 1940 film Susan and God. From there, the rest is history. Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford is one of those stars that you can say made headlines as a pioneer of the cinemas back in the 1930s. However, that's not all. She was also among the very first people to get involved with cosmetic surgery at a time when Hollywood was still in its infancy. As a matter of fact, Mary was 37 when she had the plastic surgery. For her, the goal was to enhance her youthful appearance and counteract the effects of aging. It's true that aging has always been a major concern for stars. However, you simply have to agree that Mary Pickford took a big risk during her time. You see, back in that era, cosmetic surgery was still a nascent field, and the procedure in general was more in its experimental stage. So the odds were higher that the whole thing could end up as a catastrophe. Luckily for her, that wasn't the case. The procedure was done by Dr. Michael Tatum. Despite the risks and limited technology available, the good doctor was able to help her by tightening her facial skin and reshaping her features. This was how Mary was able to restore her youthful appearance from what it was going to be. When talking about the history and origin of plastic surgery in Hollywood, it's safe to say that Mary Pickford was one of the people who ushered in the procedure as a possible enhancement of beauty. Bete Davis. By 1954, Bete Davis had achieved immense success and accolades as one of Hollywood's top actresses. However, as she was about to approach her late 40s, the effects of time were beginning to show through fine lines and puffiness under her eyes. While some attributed her physical condition to old age, others believed that it was the result of the autoimmune thyroid condition's Graves' disease, which would cause swelling of the muscle around the eyes and the surrounding tissues.
The kid, Junior that is, will be down in a minute unless you'd like to take her drink up to her.
Whatever the reason for her puffy eyes was, Davis wasn't willing to sit back and let that ruin her career. In August 1954, the formidable star visited the renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Cheryl Oppenheimer in L.A. During the consultation, Davis expressed concern that her eyes were negatively impacting her vision during the lengthy period of filming. As a result, the good doctor had to opt for an upper and lower blepharoplasty, which is popularly known as an eyelid lift. For this procedure, the specialist would be working on tightening the tissues in the eye region, hence making the eyes not bulge so much. Luckily for Davis, the doctor did quite a good job. After surgery, her eyes appeared brighter and more alert. She returned to work weeks later to film the courtroom drama, The Catered Affair. Merle Oberon.
A lady whose beauty is not only a legend, but a reality. Merle Oberon.
Merle Oberon is a British actress who was celebrated for her iconic performances in films such as The Private Life of Henry VIII and Wuthering Heights, where she portrayed Catherine Earnshaw. In her prime, she was nominated for an Academy Award for The Dark Angel. That very nomination, and her other hits like These Three and A Song to Remember, were what she needed to put a stamp on her career and certify her as a renowned star. Looking at things back then, you can say all was going smoothly for her until her career nearly came to a sudden halt in 1937 when she suffered severe facial injuries from a car accident. Determined to continue acting, Oberon underwent plastic surgery to repair the damage. But her quest for beauty didn't stop there. In an era when skin tone and appearance played important roles in Hollywood success, she went on to lighten her complexion just to hide the fact that she was from an Anglo-Indian heritage. Eventually, the use of harsh chemicals for skin bleaching left her with a damaged complexion, which only worsened due to an allergic reaction to sulfa drugs. She sought dermabrasion treatments in New York, but the results were less than perfect. At this point, Oberon's skin had already become pitted and scarred. Everyone thought that was the end of Oberon's career. Not until the cinematographer Lucien Ballard stepped in. He invented a special spotlight to hide her scars. This very same spotlight that came to be known as Obie. Dean Martin. On the list of celebrities who have had plastic surgery in the past, there's also the singer Dean Martin.
Who's the next one to come out?
Apparently, his own surgery was brought about by the boxing injury that broke his nose, the very one that he had when he was in his youth. It turns out that while performing at a nightclub in 1944, Martin's broken and poorly healed nose began to cause breathing problems under the stage lights. Yes, you can say he was able to manage for a while, but he saw it necessary to book an appointment with Dr. Joan Crawford, one of the top plastic surgeons in New York. As a matter of fact, Dean was exactly 28 when he visited Dr. Crawford in September 1944. According to the doctor, he pointed out that Dean Martin's nose was deviated with a visible bend to one side. As such, he had to advise Martin to undergo rhinoplasty surgery to straighten the nose. At the end of the day, it wasn't really a matter of choice but survival, so Dean went under the knife. Through an incision inside the nose, the cartilage was reconstructed and fragments of bone were removed. Martin wasn't particularly the patient type, so he skipped rest and got into action 2 weeks later. In truth, his fans hardly noticed anything different. Martin was able to retain his suave persona and his lovely voice all through his career. Gary Cooper. Back in the day, it sure was rare having men turn to plastic surgery, but it wasn't necessarily impossible. Living in an on-screen universe, you can say each and every one of the stars of Hollywood were particularly conscious of their face. Think of it more as the major selling point at the time, contrary to what Hollywood is metamorphosed to become in recent days.
Then if you wanted to make it even, you could let him come up on you from behind. He's real fine at that.
One of the men who was facing this pressure in the 1950s was Gary Cooper, one of the biggest stars of the era. In the mid-50s, he was still a leading actor in films, but his age was beginning to show on his face. Because of the pressure, Gary had to look for help. What did he do? In 1958, at the age of 57, he settled for a facelift procedure, one that was quite uncommon amongst the male folks. The facelift is what tightened his sagging skin and gave him a refreshing appearance. While the surgery was subtle, it sure was noticeable due to the age of the man. For a period of time, it was quite odd for Gary to blend back in with the other male folks in Hollywood. But eventually, he went on to retain his title as a matinee idol. Judy Garland. If we are talking about physical insecurities in general, the age grade of people with the most physical insecurities is mostly teenagers. being that while they are transitioning from teenagehood to adulthood, they are mostly comparing their bodies to those of others.
Time magazine, in a recent story, said that Judy Garland, for some reason, which was not clear to me, attracts a lot of homosexuals.
It's quite common to see teenagers who are insecure about their bodies. Our best guess is that was what happened to the 19-year-old MGM star Judy Garland. However, back in the day, Garland had reported pain from her oversized teeth. She claimed that the size of her front teeth made it unbearable for her to talk and eat. While that might be the case, people believe she was just being way too self-conscious. Eventually, in June 1941, she decided to visit the esteemed celebrity dentist doctor, Charles Lockman. He was the one who took up the job of filing down Garland's 2 front teeth. That wasn't all. To achieve total perfection, he also performed an orthodontic procedure to align her bite better. No doubt the result of the surgery was quite evident and odd later on, but the fans later grew to appreciate the charming smile that came with the surgery. You might have thought that at least Garland would stop there, but she didn't. She later went ahead and had Lockman do a rhinoplasty on October 31, 1941. Joan Crawford. If you've been following Hollywood for a while, especially as a millennial, chances are you've come across the term Crawford's mouth at least once in your life. But did you know this description actually originated from the famous actress Joan Crawford? Now, don't be surprised. As crazy as it sounds, some stars have smiles and gestures named after them. The only difference is that in Joan Crawford's case, the term Crawford mouth refers to one of her unfortunate plastic surgery outcomes. Apparently, for a time when surgery was still going through several reforms.
And she's in Los Angeles and I'm in Hollywood, or I'm in Hollywood or she's in Los Angeles, so I don't know the difference.
Joan Crawford might have chosen the short end on the end of the straw. Back then, in the 1930s, while she had already bagged an Academy Award and made several appearances as a star, she decided to go a little overboard in her quest for fame by getting a facelift and breast augmentation procedure in 1953. It's not that she ever said anything on the subject. She wasn't really ever going to disclose the details. People only came to the conclusion that she had performed surgery due to her past experience and changing appearance. It turns out that in the past, she had an unsuccessful cosmetic procedure that altered the shape of her lips. The distasteful look of her lips is where the whole concept of Crawford's mouth came up from. You might want to be particularly mindful when someone calls you out as having a Crawford's mouth. It certainly isn't a compliment. Elizabeth Taylor. Like Garland, Elizabeth Taylor's predicament was probably similar. When she was 18, right about the same time she got to star in A Place in the Sun, in 1950, you can say she was one of the most stunning, lovely actresses. However, she harbored small insecurities. The one thing she was most bothered about was her nose. For Elizabeth, she simply believed that her nose didn't fit her heart-shaped face. Due to the concerns she had, the studio executives had to secretly take her to visit Dr. Jules Gurdon.
Because I was more famous than my husband, in most cases.
A renowned plastic surgeon in L.A. Since her major insecurity involved her nose, the doctor had to schedule a rhinoplasty for February 1950. Apparently, it was this time that Elizabeth had her nose cartilage reshaped and the bridge of her nose thinned out. At the end of the day, the goal was to create a delicate profile of classic beauty, and the good doctor was able to accomplish way more than that. The surgery was a success, and despite bruising, Taylor braved public appearances just 10 days later, looking rather quite radiant. When she was asked about why she had undergone surgery, she claimed that her nose job was solely to fix her breathing and not to enhance her beauty. You can guess what people choose to believe. Carole Lombard. Still on the list, you are looking at Carole Lombard, one of those Hollywood stars that everyone seemed to love back in the day. As a matter of fact, Carole's plastic surgery was a result of a traumatic accident that happened in 1925 when she was still in the early stages of her career. While she had survived the accident with all limbs intact, The accident left her with severe facial injuries, cuts, and a broken nose. Seeing how much of a threat this posed for Carole and her career, she basically had no choice but to perform surgery to preserve her career. When Carole decided to go under,
What do you see, Yuki?
Oh, you going to party. Big party, lots of people.
her directive to the doctor was simply to repair everything that was broken. However, imagine the surprise from fans when she stepped out. The surgery had not just reconstructed her face, but she was looking even more aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. Indeed, the scars from the accident were still a little visible, but you can say there weren't scars that the paparazzi could capture from a distance. To see them, one would have to come very close. Even at that, the doctor did a good job hiding them. Despite the setbacks and everything, Carole went on to become one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. She won. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr, who is an Austrian-born actress, quickly became an American icon by dazzling Hollywood with her beauty and talent in films like Algiers, Boomtown, and White Cargo. But don't rule off, she wasn't just a beauty, she was one with brains who made a career by inventing things. Apparently, these inventions later contributed to the development of wireless tech, including phones and the internet. For Hedy, her mind was as sharp as her looks were striking, making her one of the most fascinating figures in Hollywood. However, as she aged, Lamarr became obsessed with maintaining her youthful appearance through plastic surgery. This is what led to drastic changes in her once famous face. At the time, cosmetic procedures were far behind, and they relied on fillers like wax and industrial silicone. These were what was injected into her face, and they produced disastrous results. You'd have at least thought that she would take a break, but she later went ahead and sought non-surgical solutions.
Oh, later. You haven't eaten since morning. Meg, your man doesn't take care of himself.
One of the unconventional advice from a doctor was based on the theory that stimulating the pituitary gland could enhance bust size. Sadly, that never happened. Instead, the experiment left her disfigured and turned the actress from someone who was once celebrated as one of the most beautiful women in the world into a recluse. Sad, don't you think? Despite her deteriorating appearance, Lamarr's legacy as an inventor remained untarnished. In 1966, a film was made about her life. She was supposed to attend an awards ceremony to receive her awards for her contributions to tech, but she never made an appearance. Gloria Swanson. Just as it was for most of the celebrities who underwent surgery, Gloria Swanson was already made at the age of 29.
Well, if I had not written it, somebody else would have. And some stranger. And only I know what happened.
However, she felt the need to perform surgery that very same year in 1928. According to her views, which some referred to as a popular excuse amongst celebrities, Gloria said that she was performing her surgery to preserve her youthful beauty, given that the film industry was quite competitive at the time. No doubt her objective was just and reasonable. However, at that time, plastic surgery was still in its infancy, and it was considered very risky. Then, the only people who were majorly willing to undergo plastic surgery were the war heroes who had survived the war. Being that they had several scars and injuries already, they didn't really mind that the upcoming plastic surgeons performed surgery on them. If it came out nice, they considered themselves lucky. For other times, when the results don't come out excellently well, they just manage. So you can imagine just how much of a risk we are talking about. Although Swanson's procedure wasn't really a major one per se. All she needed was a facelift to tighten her skin, and that was what she got. She did this in the most discreet way possible, but the word eventually came out. Lauren Bacall. At 37 years of age, Lauren Bacall had also come to make a name as one of the most iconic stars of Hollywood to grace the golden age.
You just put your lips together and blow.
This was mostly because of her stunning voice. However, the problem was, while she had a rather very good voice, Lauren didn't have a look that complemented her voice. Apparently, old age had already started to set in, and it was happening really fast for Lauren. As a means to slow her aged face and extend her time on screen, Lauren had to visit Dr. Edward Shaw in Beverly Hills. It was during the consultation that she expressed concerns over developing fine lines and loose skin under her jaw and neck, the very same signs of aging. For Lauren, she was quite particular about the need to be discreet. While she wanted to fix her face, she never wanted the word to come out that she had surgery. That was the exact principle that Dr. Shaw abided by. In November 1961, under local anesthesia, Dr. Shaw performed a facelift focused on Bacall's lower face and neck. You can say the results appeared natural, yet way more refreshing to see. At the time, Bacall was quite happy to see her youthful self in the mirror. This helped her to regain her confidence once again. A few months later, she went on to film Billy Wilder's sitcom, The Nutty Professor. John Wayne. John Wayne, who was famously known as the Duke, was also one of the most enduring icons of Hollywood's golden age. Best remembered for his rugged performances in westerns and war films, Wayne's journey to stardom wasn't an overnight success. He began his career with Fox Film Corporation, appearing in minor roles before landing his first leading part in The Big Trail, an ambitious widescreen epic that flopped at the box office. Throughout the 1930s, he worked mostly in B-movie westerns. This was when he was struggling to make a name for himself. However, he later got his breakthrough in the role of John Ford's Stagecoach. From then on, Wayne's career became somewhat flawless, and he starred in 142 films throughout his lifetime. Towards retirement, age became a barrier to John. This is what made him consider making changes that would lead to plastic surgery. By 1949, he began wearing a wig in all his films, hiding his thinning hair, but then he realized that wasn't really going to make much difference. In 1969, just before filming began for a new project, Wayne decided to go for multiple cosmetic surgeries such as a facelift and neck lift. There was no way that the man was about to let the signs of old age take away his glory days.
A great number of dear friends of mine got together and did a show. And
after the surgery, John made some other breakthroughs in some action movies. Sadly, cancer put him out of action in 1979. Jocelyne Wildenstei. While we are talking about a few people who were a little too obsessed with plastic surgery, we can't leave out the Swiss socialite and actress Jocelyne Wildenstei. Unlike the others, Jocelyne's plastic surgery journey was quite dramatic. She almost made it seem like she was living in a movie, one she had orchestrated and written herself. As a matter of fact, Jocelyne's transformation began innocently enough in the early days of her marriage to billionaire Alec Wildenstein, an art dealer and racehorse owner. According to a few people, it probably all started with a desire for cat eyes, the very look that was inspired by the admiration for the lynx. Being that somehow Jocelyne had these features, she was asked about them. Jocelyne, talking to Vanity Fair, claimed that feline-like eyes and high cheekbones ran in her family. In her words, "I was more beautiful back then, but the same eyes, the same cheeks, and the same nose are still there." Was she being honest? Obviously not. We would have believed Jocelyne's story if not because of her husband, who let the cat out of the bag. According to the interview, Alec Wildenstein revealed that after their wedding in 1978, his wife became so obsessed with cosmetic procedures that he didn't realize how much her obsession had influenced his views on the matter. From the onset, they'd embark on facelift adventures until Jocelyne started to see surgery as a regular spa treatment. Alec, who appeared to be already complaining, said she saw her face as if it were a piece of furniture that needed fixing, and none of his complaints ever mattered. Eventually, Jocelyne's surgeries made headlines and overshadowed her accomplishments. To this day, most celebrities still look at her story as a cautionary tale against cosmetic obsession. What do you think about the plastic surgeries done by past celebrities? Do you think we left out anything in particular? We'd love you to share your opinion in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channels. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.